The battlefield was never truly silent. Even after the guns stopped firing and the machines of war went quiet, the air still carried whispers of what had happened. Smoke drifted like ghosts above the broken ground. Fires burned in small patches, their glow throwing shadows on the twisted metal and shattered earth. The scent of blood and scorched soil clung to everything. It was a silence filled with weight, the kind that pressed on the chest and reminded everyone who walked there that life and death had passed only moments ago. The human medics moved quickly, across this graveyard of war. Their boots splashed through mud and ash. They carried stretchers, shouted for supplies, and bent over the wounded. Some voices cried in pain, others in fear, and some grew quiet forever. Every medic had seen this before, but each time felt heavier. The war never got easier. Corporal Daniel Hayes was one of them. His hands were red, his uniform torn, and his heart was tired. He had been on the field since dawn, patching wounds, and pulling bodies from wrecks. He tried to focus on each patient as if they were the only one, but in his mind faces began to blur together. Human or alien, it no longer mattered. They were all just lives slipping away if he didn't act fast enough. That was when he saw it. Not a human soldier, not even a familiar ally. It was something larger, something that made his breath catch. Lying broken on a stretcher was a Drakari warrior. Daniel had heard of them since childhood. The Drakari were legends of destruction, towering beasts with scaled skin, tusks like blades, and voices like thunder. Humanity once feared them, fought against them, and told stories of their cruelty to frighten children. But today, in this war, the Drakari were allies. Both species stood against a common enemy that threatened to wipe them out. Even knowing this, Daniel felt his pulse quicken as he knelt beside the alien. The warrior was enormous, nearly 8 feet tall, but now he looked small in a way Daniel never imagined. His body armor was cracked open, his scales blackened with burns, his tusks chipped and stained red. He lay half-conscious, breathing with painful gasps that sounded like rocks grinding together. His eyes, golden, sharp, and full of fire even in weakness, moved toward Daniel. The sight shook the young medic. This was no monster from a bedtime story. This was no unstoppable titan. This was just a living being bleeding out in front of him. Daniel pressed his hands against the wounds, trying to stop the flow. The thick blood of the Drakari was hot and heavy, different from human blood, but it still spilled too fast. He shouted for bandages, but the other medics were busy with their own patients. For a moment, it was just him and the warrior. The alien's massive hand suddenly moved, seizing Daniel's wrist with surprising strength. The grip was rough, almost crushing, but it wasn't an attack. It was desperation. The Drakari's voice came out low, broken, but still carried a strange dignity. "Please," he rasped, every word costing him. "Please, just put it in." Daniel froze. The words cut through him. The way the alien spoke wasn't like an order or a command. It was a plea. The medic blinked, confused. "Put what in?" he whispered. His training had prepared him for gunshot wounds, for burns, for broken bones, but not for this. The warrior weakly lifted one clawed finger and pointed toward his own side, where a belt still hung loosely from his broken armor. Attached to it was a small cylinder, cracked and glowing faintly. Daniel didn't understand it yet, but he knew it was important. The Drakari's eyes locked onto his. Even through pain, even through weakness, there was something raw in that look. Something human could understand. Fear, desperation, hope. The battlefield was full of cries, but at that moment, Daniel only heard one voice. The voice of an alien. Warrior once feared across the stars, now begging softly like a child in pain. "Please," the warrior whispered again, his grip tightening slightly. "Just put it in." And for the first time in his life, Daniel Hayes realized that monsters could beg too. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest as the words echoed in his ears. "Please, just put it in." He stared at the strange, glowing cylinder on the warrior's belt. The light flickered weakly as if it was alive but fading. Daniel had no idea what it was. But the way the alien begged told him it wasn't just a weapon. It was something deeper, something vital. The Drakari's breathing grew rougher. Every inhale sounded like broken glass being dragged through his lungs. His grip on Daniel's wrist trembled but did not let go. For a warrior this size to be reduced to such weakness, the damage had to be worse than anything Daniel could see. Daniel glanced around. The other medics were running from one patient to another, shouting orders, carrying bandages, and trying to save whoever they could. No one was free to help him. No one was watching. It was only him and the alien. Easy. Easy, Daniel whispered, trying to calm both the warrior and himself. His voice cracked slightly, betraying his own fear. You're going to be okay. Just hold on. The alien's golden eyes locked onto his. There was no trust in them, only desperation. But somehow Daniel understood. This wasn't about medicine. This wasn't about saving a life in the way humans understood it. This was about something sacred. Slowly, Daniel reached toward the cylinder. His fingers brushed against its surface. The metal was cracked, warm, and pulsing faintly, like a weak heartbeat. He could feel the hum of energy beneath it. Core. The alien growled softly, forcing the word through his pain. Battle core. If it leaves me, I die. Empty. No honor. No afterlife. Daniel froze. A core? His life? His soul? He didn't know. He wasn't trained in alien rituals. He wasn't supposed to touch unknown tech. But how could he ignore a plea like this? The warrior coughed, blood spilling past his tusks. His hand shook violently, clawed fingers digging into the stretcher's wood, as though trying to cling to life itself. His voice, though broken, carried a strange power. Please, human, put it back in me. Daniel swallowed hard, his mind screamed with doubt. What if he did it wrong? What if pushing the core into the wrong place killed the warrior instantly? What if it exploded? What if he ended up killing himself too? But when he looked at the warrior again, all he saw wasn't a monster, wasn't an enemy, wasn't even an alien. He saw a soldier, someone who fought, bled, and now begged for a chance not to die forgotten. Daniel tightened his grip on the cylinder. His hands trembled, but he pulled it free from the broken belt. The hum grew louder in his palm, like the pulse of a living heart. The warrior's gaze softened just slightly, as if he knew Daniel was about to make the choice. Why, me? Daniel whispered under his breath, hardly realizing he had spoken aloud. The Drakari's lips curled, revealing tusks, but it wasn't a snarl. It was something different. Because you stayed. You didn't run. The words hit Daniel harder than any explosion. He remembered the battle. How many soldiers had fled when the enemy fire became too much? How many had abandoned the field in fear? But he had stayed, kneeling in the dirt, refusing to leave the wounded. And somehow, this dying warrior noticed. For a moment, the medic's fear was replaced by something else. A weight of responsibility, yes, but also a spark of courage. Maybe he couldn't understand alien traditions, but he understood what it meant to be asked for help. Daniel took a shaky breath and pressed the cylinder gently against the open cavity in the warrior's chest. Sparks flickered, and the alien groaned in pain, his body jerking slightly. Daniel almost pulled away in panic, but the Drakari's hand shot up again, grabbing his wrist and forcing it to stay. Do it, the warrior growled through clenched teeth. Daniel pushed harder, feeling the resistance of torn muscle and cracked bone. It was like forcing life back into a broken machine. His stomach churned at the sight, but he held firm. The glow from the core pulsed brighter, as if responding. The warrior's eyes rolled back for a moment, his chest rising and falling rapidly. Come on, Daniel whispered, his voice trembling but filled with determination. He could feel sweat dripping down his face, his muscles aching from the effort of holding the core steady. Around them, the chaos of the battlefield roared on. But for Daniel, everything narrowed to this single moment. Him, the alien, and the fragile thread of life hanging between them. And then, just for a second, The core gave a sharp pulse of light. Far, Drakari's chest shuddered. His massive body tensed. His grip tightened painfully around Daniel's wrist. And though Daniel didn't know if he had saved him or doomed them both, he refused to let go. The hum from the core filled the air. Faint, but steady, like a dying heartbeat trying to come alive again. Daniel kept his hand pressed against it, terrified to move, terrified to stop. His breath came quick, his chest tight, but he refused to look away. The Drakari warrior's body shook violently. His tusks clenched, his claws dug into the stretcher, and his golden eyes squeezed shut as waves of pain coursed through him. Daniel thought for sure the alien would die right there, explode, collapse, or simply fade into silence. But then the warrior opened his eyes again. They were weaker now, dimmer than before, but still burning with that strange fire. He looked, not like a beast or a monster, but like a soul holding on to life with everything it had. His voice cracked as he forced the words out. Human, listen. This core, it is my spirit, my honor. Without it, I pass into nothing. No songs, no afterlife, no ancestors waiting for me. I will die, forgotten. Daniel froze, his hand still against the glowing device. Forgotten? He hadn't thought about what death meant to aliens. For humans, death was already heavy enough. Families mourned, graves were dug, and names were remembered. But for this creature, death without the core meant worse than death. It meant emptiness, oblivion. The Drakari's chest heaved, his breath ragged. He coughed, thick blood staining the corner of his mouth. His giant hand twitched, reaching again for Daniel's wrist. It wasn't strength now, it was pleading. Please. I fought for my people. I fought beside yours. I cannot leave. Empty. You must give it back. Only you. Only now. Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to say he couldn't. He wanted to shout that he wasn't trained for this, that he didn't even know what he was holding, that one wrong move could kill them both. But when he looked at the alien, the words died in his chest. This wasn't about fear anymore. It wasn't even about the war. It was about one being asking another for mercy. The medic shifted, his knees digging into the mud, his arms shaking. As he adjusted the cracked cylinder, he had no instructions, no manual, just the desperate hope that putting it back would mean something. He pressed harder. The warrior roared in agony, his voice echoing across the field, deep and broken. Several medics turned their heads but didn't stop. They had their own patients to fight for. Daniel almost pulled away again, his own body flinching at the sound. But the Drakari's clawed hand shot out once more, clutching his arm with surprising force for someone so broken. Do not stop, the alien growled through the pain. Do not let me fall. The words cut through Daniel like a blade. He nodded, his jaw tight, and pushed again. The core resisted, sparking, spitting faint arcs of energy that stung his hands. The smell of burning metal mixed with the iron, scent of blood. Daniel whispered under his breath, not sure if he was speaking to the alien himself or the universe. Hold on, just hold on, I'm not letting you die like this. The warrior's chest convulsed, his scales shifting, his tusks grinding together. His eyes flickered open and shut, golden light dimming and brightening in uneven rhythm. For a moment, Daniel thought it was too late, that no matter how much he tried, the alien's plea would end in silence. But then the Drakari whispered, almost too soft to hear, You are brave. Braver than most of my kind. Braver than many of yours. You did not run. Daniel's heart clenched. The words came from someone who had lived war far longer than he had, someone who had probably killed more enemies than Daniel had even seen. And yet, in his last moments, the alien called him brave. Daniel swallowed hard, his hands steadying. I'm not letting go, not until it's done. The warrior tried to smile, though blood stained his tusks. Then, maybe, I will not be forgotten. The core pulsed again, brighter this time. The hum grew stronger, filling Daniel's palms, vibrating through his bones. Something was happening. Something real. Daniel leaned forward, pressing the Device into place, his whole body tense, his soul burning with a single thought. I will not let him die empty. The battlefield still roared around them, but here, in this moment, it was quiet. Just a human and an alien, bound not by war or duty, but by something deeper. And Daniel knew, whatever happened next, he would never forget this plea. Daniel's arms ached from pressing the core, but he didn't stop. Every second felt like a battle of its own. The warrior's chest rose and fell in uneven bursts, and each time Daniel thought it might be the last. His fingers trembled, his mind screamed at him to stop, but his heart refused to let go. Around him, the battlefield remained, alive with noise, shouts of medics, the clatter of stretchers, the distant rumble of machines. But Daniel heard none of it clearly anymore. All he could hear was the low hum of the core and the broken growls of the Drakari, who refused to surrender to death. The alien's hand squeezed his wrist again, weaker now, but still carrying determination. Do it. Faster. Before it dies. Daniel looked at the cracked cylinder glowing in his palm. The light inside flickered wildly, sometimes dim, sometimes sharp like lightning. If it went dark, that would be the end. Fear clawed at Daniel's chest. He wasn't trained for this. Human medics were taught to stabilize wounds, stop bleeding, save lives with known methods. Nothing in his training manual had ever said, insert alien spirit core into chest cavity while it sparks like a live grenade. His mind raced. What if I kill him? What if it explodes? What if I'm doing it all wrong? But then he looked into the Drakari's eyes again. Those golden eyes were not begging for survival in the human sense. They weren't asking for comfort, or safety, or even a guarantee of life. They were begging for honor, for meaning. The warrior didn't want to live just to breathe. He wanted to live with his soul intact. Daniel swallowed hard, his voice low. I don't know if I can... The Drakari's lips curled into something between a grimace and a smile. If you do nothing, I am already dead. The words pierced Daniel like a blade. He could see the truth in them. He realized then that the choice was not between saving or killing. The choice was between giving this warrior a chance or letting him fade empty. Daniel clenched his teeth and forced the core deeper into the broken chest. Sparks hissed, burning his skin. The warrior's body jerked violently, his tusks grinding, as a deep roar escaped his throat. Daniel almost pulled away in panic, but the alien grabbed his arm tighter, anchoring him there. Do not. Stop, the warrior growled, his voice carrying both pain and command. Daniel nodded quickly, his breath ragged. All right, I won't, I swear. Every push felt impossible. His muscles screamed, his hands slipped from blood, his lungs begged for air. But he pressed again and again, the hum of the core growing louder, steadier. He could feel the energy, fleeting into the warrior's body, crawling under his fingers like fire. Then the fear struck him again. What if it goes wrong? What if it kills us both? A memory hit him, his commanding officer's voice back in training. If you can't be sure, follow the rules. Never touch alien tech. Stay alive. But another memory came, stronger. The moment. The Drakari had looked at him with broken eyes and whispered, You stayed. You didn't run. Daniel realized something then. Rules didn't matter here. Training didn't matter. Fear didn't matter. What mattered was the living being in front of him, begging not to be forgotten. His choice was made. Daniel shouted, almost at himself, as he pressed the core one last time with everything he had. Come on, hold on, I'm not letting you go. The old warrior roared back, his voice shaking the stretcher, shaking Daniel's very bones. His chest convulsed, his claws dug trenches into the wood beneath him, and the glow from the core spread through his body like fire racing through dry grass. For a heartbeat, Daniel thought he had done it. He thought the warrior would rise, saved. But then the light sputtered, dimming again. The hum faltered. The warrior's body slumped back, his grip loosening. His golden eyes began to close. No, no, stay with me, Daniel shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. He grabbed the alien's hand, squeezing it hard. "I'm here, I'm not leaving, you hear me? I'm not leaving." The warrior's lips moved weakly. His voice was barely a whisper, but Daniel heard it. "You fight. With heart. Greater than steel." The words broke Daniel's chest open in a way no weapon could. He felt tears sting his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. He kept pressing, kept fighting, because in that moment, he wasn't just a medic. He was a lifeline. And he swore, no matter the outcome, he would not let this warrior fall into nothing. Daniel's arms were numb. His palms were raw from sparks that had burned into his skin, and his whole body trembled from exhaustion. But he did not stop pressing the cracked core against the alien's chest. The battlefield around him was chaos, but his world had shrunk to this single moment. Him and the dying warrior who refused to be forgotten. The core flickered weakly, like a candle flame in the wind. Each pulse of light was slower than the last. Daniel felt his hope slipping, felt despair trying to claw into his chest. If it died out completely, nothing would save the Drakari. The warrior's eyes fluttered, barely open now. His voice came out as a rasp, dry and hollow. "Human, if you cannot, let me go." Daniel shook his head fiercely, gripping the core tighter. His throat tightened, and his voice broke as he answered. "No, I'm not letting you die like this. Not empty, not forgotten." The words surprised even him. They came not from training, not from duty, but from his heart. The warrior's lips twitched, almost forming a smile, though blood stained his tusks. His hand lifted weakly, claws brushing Daniel's shoulder as if giving him strength. Then, "You must finish it, all the way." Daniel took a deep breath, steadying himself. He could feel how close he was. One last push, one final act, but it terrified him. The energy inside the core had grown unstable. If he forced it wrong, it could detonate. He might kill them both. For a moment, doubt screamed inside his head. He imagined his family back home, his fellow soldiers counting on him, the warning in his training manuals. Never interfere with alien tech. He imagined how easily he could just step back, whisper an apology, and let the warrior's life fade quietly. But then he looked at the Drakari's face again. Not a monster. Not a beast, just a soldier, broken and bleeding, begging for one final dignity.